So hopefully that's okay. All right. So people can hear me now. Good. And I'm confirming with John. All good now. All right. As I said, and I will restate everything I said so you didn't miss anything. It is a technology nightmare, especially for me, who does not like this type of stuff. I want to push one button, have everything turn on, and just have it work. All right. So we're here. I appreciate everybody letting me know. Happy Monday. Welcome back. We've got a lot to talk about today. Directly after this video, Gwyneth Paltrow juror reaction from multiple jurors, multiple clips. Break that down. Already recorded that this morning. My voice, as you can tell, is on the mend. It is on the mend. But I'm feeling good, and we're here. We're going to hang out for about an hour, talk through Sarah Boone's letter to her lawyer prior to the pretrial. Then we're going to watch the pretrial together and talk about this case and why I'm not surprised that it got continued. And do we think this is going to be the last continuance? We'll talk about that. But a lot of other stuff going on. The merch site, I'm told, is close. Still not up yet. I've been promised multiple deadlines, but I'm hoping it comes very soon. I'm super excited about some of the hats and some other stuff on there. I'm really excited. I'm going to buy a bunch of stuff. I'm planning on 250K when we hit that as subscribers. I'm planning on doing the biggest giveaway of merch that I've ever done from this site. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're at 215, but at 250, whenever that happens, I am planning on doing the biggest giveaway of merch that we've ever done on this channel. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting some merch for myself and some of my friends. I had a bunch of people be like, hey, why don't I have any lawyer you know merch? I'm like, I didn't know you'd actually want it. But I don't want to waste time. People like get straight to the point. We're going to talk about a couple cases going on this week and what you all are interested in at the end. I've got a poll ready for us to take at the end. So we'll pause on that and we'll talk about that later. But Pete and I are actually going to start doing something new with the podcast. So first off, we've got the entire Paltrow trial uploaded to the podcast. If you guys like that medium better, you can check it out on podcast. But Pete and I are going to start talking about the lawyer that was attacked by the doctor in our backyard, literally in St. Pete. We know all the players involved, the prosecutors, the defense attorney, the judges, law enforcement, the victim, the defendant, and the other connected parties. So we're going to talk about that. And it's going to be a little bit more of a relaxed conversation. It's not going to be only what comes in court. We've talked about this in the past. I think the podcast, Pete and I are going to talk about some of the stuff that may be inadmissible. We're still working on names like that's not coming in, something like that. Some more of the inadmissible testimony that people talk about that can affect and shape a case, and more of kind of a relaxed format than these YouTube videos that are live, that we're breaking stuff down, that we're answering questions. So we're going to talk about that later. EJ, we'll talk about why. We'll talk about potential motives because we do know some of the potential motives of that case. But let's jump into Sarah Boone, okay? This is a case that's interested us for a long time on this channel. We've talked about the statements made to law enforcement. We've talked about the statements made after she was brought to the station, statements made at the scene of the crime when they showed up, her ex-husband who was there. And we've been waiting for this case to get to trial because she says it was an accident. She says she admits to putting him in the suitcase or having some involvement or zipping it up. And we've recently heard at the last hearing that she plans on arguing a battered spouse syndrome defense, which basically means she has to admit to the action, but it was done for a purpose that makes it not murder and not criminal. We've also talked a lot about the issues that she has had with her attorney. And regardless of what we think about somebody, we believe they deserve a right to a defense and a competent defense and a fair trial. So when speaking about that, we have another letter to discuss here and more legitimate complaints by Sarah Boone. Again, regardless of if we think she's guilty or innocent, regardless of if we like her or don't like her, the point is she has a right to a fair trial. And just before this most recent pretrial hearing and motion to continue, yes, this is, I believe, her sixth lawyer. So she's writing to Frank, or I thought it was Frank Bankowitz, but I can't. Oh yeah, Frank J. Bankowitz. Here it is. Dear Mr. Bankowitz, This is my third letter trying to reach you over another almost 6-week period now. The same 2 phone numbers you've given me still do not work. The one number, your personal cell, goes to voicemail directly and doesn't even ring. I've had this number since you personally gave it to me back in July of 2022 upon your appointment as my attorney by the court. It's not working still 8 months later. So his personal cell phone that she's been calling still will not answer that number. 8 months later. The other number rings and rings and rings until it automatically disconnects. Not working either. This also is the number you continuously tell me it just needs to be activated. Please activate. I even, in my desperation to speak with you, had an outside caller try to reach you on my behalf who tried calling your office 3 times over the last almost 3 weeks, leaving a voicemail each time with no reply. We're both hoping you are able to reply to her email she sent you today as another form of trying to communicate with you. I've exhausted my resources and am again just sitting here waiting for you to contact me in whatever way you are able and as soon as possible, please. Time-sensitive matters are at hand, as I have made you aware of previously, verbally, and in my letters. I know you have attempted to schedule the minimum 15-minute. We're going to get to page 2 here, and it seems to cut off over page 2. It seems like there's more, but we'll read what we have here. And if you have the full letter, feel free to send it to me on Instagram or Twitter. @TragosLaw is my handle right here. My pretrial conference, I found out, is now on 3/31/23, which you said previously, for whatever reason, I am unable to attend any of these conferences. That's incorrect, wholly incorrect. And as we know, she was there. We're going to watch the video. But he's not even telling her when this stuff is. How am I supposed to know what's going on and what you are reporting and what is being discussed between all other parties except me, the main component in my case? Especially if we, in a still unestablished attorney-client relationship, are not in regular or proper communication with one another. I don't understand how we can talk through strategy in this defense and getting her to meet with medical professionals if he's not talking to her. Why can I not be in attendance and participate in my pretrial conference? How else am I to be kept updated and real time and actual minutes during the conference if not there myself? And he's not explaining to her what's happening. I have no way of knowing anything if not updated by you, my attorney, and I do not have a computer to use or view it myself. Help me understand, please. How can court TV, different news channels, and even professional YouTubers attend my pretrial conference and I cannot? That's totally incorrect. And the fact that she believes this is sad. Regardless of what you think about her, she should absolutely be able to be there at every one of these hearings. How? I'm sure one of the other parties can help me with updates since they all will be in attendance for me also. Should you be able to provide why can I not be included in my pretrial conference for my case? I'm sure also everything from the conference collected from everyone else will be vomited all over the internet, just like everything else has been, non-permissively, and can add even more dysfunction and ignorance to my prejudgment already made by the world in the great court of public opinion. Totally fair, in my opinion, as one of these. I mean, I don't consider myself a professional YouTuber, but I am a professional on YouTube. So I'm fine if she wants to lump me into that. And I think she's right that she should be there. We should not have access to more stuff than she should in her own case. Brianna, I agree with you. She seems difficult to deal with, but that doesn't mean, you know how many clients I have that are difficult to deal with? If I didn't work with difficult people, I'd cut my client base in half. Because many times people become more difficult when they are in the most difficult times of their life. Accused of a crime, arrested, injured, someone in their family died wrongfully at the negligence of the hand of another. People are not in the best frame of mind or the happiest positions in their life when something like this happens. So, and I like a lot of my clients that are difficult as well. I can understand why people are difficult in certain situations. I didn't mean that as, oh, they're bad people if they're difficult. A lot of people are difficult. Even good people can be difficult in tough times. But I get what you're saying, Brianna. And I would agree with you that this probably doesn't necessarily mean that because she's hating on him in these public letters that he's going to want to help her more. So I do get you there. I would like to be a part of all of this, seeing as it is all pertains to me. It is my right. So many questions, concerns, piling up from not being, and that's all we got here from this letter that was sent to me. But totally appropriate, in my opinion, complaints made by Sarah Boone in this case. And I think that I do not like the way this lawyer is handling this case. And you all may say, oh, it's because she's a scumbag, because she's a bad person, because she's a criminal, because she did it. I hate to say it, but that's probably a lot of his clients. We're going to hear again how he has another death penalty trial set for later this year. We know he already had one earlier in the year because that was the basis of a prior continuance. So if this guy's representing multiple death penalty clients, those are by definition worse charges than Sarah Boone is charged with. So that's not the reason he's doing this, because he thinks she's a bad person or has done something horrible. Yeah, I love pie. If he's a defense lawyer, he's going to have bad clients. That's just the way it works. And we're going to watch this pretrial hearing together, comment on it. I'm going to answer your questions. We're going to talk through this case and what's going on. But I am a little confused. I see some people asking in the chat why the judge doesn't mention it to the lawyer. Now, as in these cases, and I mention this every time we talk about these cases because I don't talk about my cases on YouTube for a million reasons, but there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot that could be going on in the background that we don't know about. The judge could be privately scolding this attorney, or the judge could know that maybe Sarah Boone isn't being completely honest, that the lawyer has provided phone logs or conversations or jail meetings with Sarah Boone that she is ignoring. Yes, this trial is in Orlando, Florida. Orlando, Florida. And I am going to, because when we hit 200K subscribers, I committed to going to a few days of this trial. I will be there. And I spoke to some people involved. And there are even some people that are in our community that are in Orlando that have offered up office space in the courthouse even, and some ways to make it easier on me to go there and handle this and be a part of this, which is really cool. And I think we'll add to a little bit. So yeah, I see people saying 250K. Regardless of if we ever get there, I'm going to go to this trial because we're already committed to that when we hit 200K. So hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already, because this is a case that interests me in a million different ways. It is in my backyard-ish, maybe the neighbor's backyard, we'll call Orlando. But let's take a listen and watch this pretrial. Let's get a couple questions actually first, and then we'll get to the pretrial. Bobby Cat, here's towards your merch. Home recovering from another surgery, so catching up on my YouTube. Hope everyone is doing great. Bobby, wish you a quick, speedy, and healthy recovery. Modern technology and medicine is amazing, and I hope it's able to help you. Thanks for being here. Ooh, just one. Opening the door with Pete, and I like almost like Pete and Pete. You remember that old show on Nickelodeon? Opening the door. That is spot on, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're opening the door to inadmissible evidence. I mean, I'll talk to John about it, but this is a contender, just one. Gonna have to send you some merch if we end up picking this. John, remember that. Alley Cat, why hasn't the judge held this attorney accountable? I want her in jail too, but without proper counsel, she won't get a fair trial, and I want her found responsible with a fair trial. Right. Eliminate appellate issues if she's the one that actually did this. I agree. And we're going to hear what the judge says. John, couldn't Sarah be lying? Absolutely. But if I was the attorney, I would probably respond to it on the record since her messages are public. Craftalytical. I sent you a message via your website. Please look out for it. I'm desperate for help for a friend Sorry to stray off topic. Okay, I will try to look for it. Hopefully you referenced your screen name because I don't think that's probably your God-given name, as we say. Abigail, welcome to the membership. June, of the judge seeing it, and can they start a disbarment or reprimand if it is true? I mean, I think he should be at least reprimanded. He's gotten some reprimands in the past for not communicating with clients, but I think the judge should at least, we know in other cases that the judge has in fact, the judge has in fact, in this case with Banquet, said you have to communicate with her by this date. I don't know why he doesn't do that a little more often. All right, let's get to the pretrial hearing here. All right, let me see what the speakers are doing and then make sure we actually have this the right way. All right, let me see if this works now.
All right, let's go ahead and call up.
Let me know if
Ms.
you guys can,
Boone's
if you guys
case.
can't hear it, let me know, because now I'm self-conscious about the technology. So hopefully you guys can hear this. Let me know if you can't.
State of Florida versus Sarah Boone, 2020 CF 2603. State of Florida,
David Cacciatore on behalf of the state.
defense.
Frank Bankowitz.
Let's go and swear Ms. Boone in.
May you please raise your right hand and be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Morning, ma'am. Tell me your name and your date of birth.
Sarah Boone, October 10th, 1977.
All right, we're here for pre-trial conference today. Mr. Cacciatore, where do you stand in preparing to proceed forward to trial?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Bankwitz, where do you stand in regards to preparing
I'm
for
sorry, the
trial?
defense is not ready. We're requesting a continuance.
Immediately, the defense is not ready. We are requesting a continuance, knowing that she doesn't want it.
We are having difficult time finding an expert who is willing to work for the JAC rates. And so I'm still, it's an essential part of the case, basically. It's never been initiated before by any of the prior attorneys that I'm aware of.
All right. So let's talk about his first reason for why they need a continuance. He says, we are struggling to find an expert that is willing to work for the JAC rates. The Justice Administrative Commission, I think is what the JAC stands for. It's basically when you can't pay on your own, there are certain rate caps that you have when you have a court-appointed lawyer or a public defender as to what you can pay experts. You can't just choose any expert. You can't go get the perfect expert like Gwyneth Paltrow may be able to get. So he's saying they're struggling to find somebody to get those rates. I find that hard to believe since there are lists of experts and the majority of cases in criminal cases are handled by the PD or court-appointed lawyers. So I find that hard to believe. He's going to tell us more later. People are saying expert in what? On the last hearing, they told us that there is going to be a battered spouse syndrome defense. And in order to do that, you have to have a mental health expert say that she is in fact a battered spouse and that this situation made her act the way that she did. And therefore, although she did these acts, she is not criminally responsible. He also says no other lawyer has ever tried to do this. Well, that should indicate that maybe it's not an appropriate case for that. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's his first reason as to why they need a continuance. Let's see what else he says.
In broad terms, what's the nature, what's the
Battered
field?
spouse defense.
Okay.
Statutorily, we have to give the state notice, sufficient time, and name of the expert and the essential elements that they'll be testifying to.
Mr. Cacciatore, what's your position in regard to the defense request for continuance?
I would have no objection to another role.
So people may say, why isn't he objecting? Why is the state agreeing to this? Well, as many of you have pointed out in the chat, We want a fair trial. We don't want an appellate issue. If the state objects, if they push this case to trial without her having the opportunity to find an expert, then that could be an appellate issue. The state doesn't want that. So the state says, well, I guess we don't object under the rule, which is the appropriate move in my opinion.
So, Mr. Bankwitz, how deeply have you plumbed the depths of the pool of experts in this field to find out or find one who's willing to work for the JAC rate?
Well, I've actually talked to 3, and they don't have contracts with JAC and are not willing to work with JAC. And I've made some other inroads with battered women's shelters, trying to get their psychologists, who'd be willing. Problem is willing to testify, basically.
Okay. Because of the concern about the compensation rate for testimony?
Well, that's one of the things. And to be honest with you, this case has had so much notoriety that people don't want to be involved.
So there's the real kicker. So the rates are one thing, but then when he starts going to battered women's shelters and other places who people that do it, I don't want to say some people do it just for the money, but maybe people that are less inclined to charge high rates, they volunteer a lot of their time at the battered women's shelters. Well, they don't want to be part of this case because of the notoriety. And really what he means is because of the public negativity around Sarah Boone and how many people feel about her and anybody that may be hired as her expert, including a lawyer. And that's where I have a problem with a lot of this, right? This is where the presumption of innocence is important. This is where professionalism is important. And people that help other people that have serious problems is important. We shouldn't condemn lawyers and doctors and mental health professionals when they help people that society marks as bad or as less than or as worthless. Because God forbid you or someone you love ends up with that label one day, even improperly so. And if you did, or someone you loved or knew did, you would want them to be able to have someone to help them. And that's what we're here for as lawyers, as professionals. And listen, we don't have to agree with them. We can still think that she's guilty after they present the evidence if that's where we sit. But we shouldn't condemn them, meaning psychologists, psychiatrists, lawyers, doctors, whoever, because they testify for Sarah Boone and they believe something after meeting with her. So most of us are never going to meet her or talk to her. So I just think it's important that we remember that. Let's be part of the better general public that says whoever she hires, that's fine. They're going to do their job and they're going to testify to what they believe. They're going to be under oath and we're going to believe that they're telling the truth. Okay? So I think that's where we should be as a community. The 3,500 of you in here, let's be there. Doesn't mean we're going to say she didn't do it. No. It just means we're not going to condemn the professionals that are involved in this process that are literally there to treat people and talk to people that have these issues. So that's what I would say. You don't have to agree with me, but if you don't agree with me, that creates a society where certain people make the decision, and once that decision's made, you're done. And you have no way out. And I see people saying, I feel 0% bad for her. Nah, no way, that's not me. Well, I hope you never know anybody that gets railroaded by the system because it does happen. And if we start letting it happen to people that Peter Tragos thinks is guilty, that's not how things should be determined. Okay? Let's do it the right way. And like we all said, if she gets convicted, let's hope it's done the right way. No appellate issues. And let's get justice for George and move on. All right. Well, there's more.
So, Mr. Bankwitz, I'm certainly willing to give you additional time based on my understanding of the case. I understand why that would be a defense the defense would want to explore about potentially presenting. What I'm not sure about is whether the inability to find an expert forever delays the trial of the case.
I wouldn't expect it to be a forever delay, Judge.
Feels like a forever delay. And here's the more annoying thing to me. If I was the judge, which I'm not, I would say, what have you accomplished since the last time? How many times have you met with your client? Have you gone through this stuff? That's the annoying thing to me, is not that they haven't found an expert yet, but how hard are you trying? He said, I've talked to 2 or 3. He made it sound like he's done a lot of work, But how much work have you actually done? If we're going to keep continuing this woman's day in court and she wants her day in court and George's family wants justice. So how long are we going to continue this? Because not finding an expert is only going to be an excuse that I'm going to accept for so long. This is really technically the second continuance the judge is going to grant based on the battered spouse syndrome being a defense. The first one where they mentioned it, the second one where they're saying they're having trouble finding an expert. And by the way, I saw a lot of people reporting, ooh, they can't find somebody to say what they need them to say. You shouldn't delay the case to be able to cherry pick an expert that's good for you. I have not heard any of that. The state didn't say it. The defense doesn't say it. The two issues with experts are money. She can't afford it and they have to accept a lower rate, which experts, he can't find one to accept it yet. And number two, the negativity and notoriety around this case. Not that they all think she doesn't fit into the battered spouse syndrome box. We heard none of that. Could be true, but I haven't heard any of it.
You know me better than that.
Mr. Cacciatore, I just want to
And
make
then
sure
he also
everyone-
says, I'm not going to delay forever, Judge. You know me better than that. It's like, okay.
the room understood that, I'll give reasonable amounts of time to prepare a defense. The defense entitled to an adequate defense, but they're not necessarily entitled to the exact defense they would prefer to have if resources run limited. So,
And did you all know that? So we talked about what a defense is, what you're entitled to, what your rights are. My dad and I have done videos on this. You're entitled to a defense, a fair defense, a competent defense, but not a perfect defense or the best defense money can buy. And that just is the sad reality of the world we live in.
Mr. Cacciatore, remind me, where are we as far as lining up your various homicide cases for trial? I know we have some things set to go to trial in the June trial period.
Yes, we have both Mr. Furlong and Mr. Sowell set for then. And then as far as this trial period, we have Mr. Hall and potentially Mr. Ofori as well. If I could ask of the defense, because I think there's a difference in the timing of the continuance in this case, does the defense intend to hire an expert to testify generally as to the precepts and the things that go along with battered spouse syndrome, or do they intend to hire an expert that will evaluate Mrs. Boone and want to comment on her directly? And the reason I ask that is because I think the case law is clear that if it's the latter thing, then the state is entitled to have her sit down with our own expert to be evaluated as well. So that would obviously take more time if that is going to be the path we're going.
So what he's asking there is this going to be an expert that testifies generally about what a battered spouse is? Or is it an expert that's going to meet with Sarah Boone, come up with a report saying she is a battered woman, and this is why she reacted this way in this situation? Because if it's number two, and they meet with her, and we've heard a lot about getting that meeting when we're dealing with mental health experts and all these civil cases, if they meet with her, then we get to have our experts meet with her and have a counter opinion of that they will probably put up in their rebuttal argument of this case. So he's absolutely correct with that. So let's hear what Bankiewicz is going to say. Are they just going to have a general expert, or are they trying to get somebody to meet with Sarah Boone specifically and be specific about what their testimony is regarding battered spouse?
Mr. Bankiewicz, are you in a position to
Number two is definitely what we're looking at, Judge. Although number one would be incorporated in that as far as their general ability and their expertise in the area.
Would you agree that if in fact you retain an expert and they're going to opine specifically on Ms. Boone's state of mind at the time of the incident, that opens the door for the state to also
Most
have an
definitely.
expert? All right.
Most definitely.
So here's what I am, and Mr. Cashel, let me ask you this. Let's say that turns out not to be an issue. We're not going to have two experts. How long would it otherwise take you to present your case? Just rough idea.
I would say 3 days.
And
So we're going to get an idea about how long this trial is going to go. So on liability, or on who committed this crime, or did she commit this crime, 3 days. That's what the state needs. Now, this is not including the battered spouse syndrome portion, which could be a whole other trial. But without the battered spouse, the state needs 3 days. And this is good for our planning to see how long this trial is going to go.
other than this potential defense, Mr. Bankiewicz, and is that including jury selection, Mr. Cacciatore?
No.
No, well, probably 3.5 days for jury selection.
All right. And Mr. Bankiewicz, other than this potential defense, if we picked a jury in one day, The state presented their case in 2.5 days. How long do you anticipate a defense presentation would be at this
I'd say
point?
at least 3 days.
So that's another 3 days for the defense. So we'll bookmark it somewhere around 3, 6, 7 days. Jury selection, and then each side 2.5 to 3 days. So 6 or 7 days without battered spouse. So I expect this to be a 2 or 3 week trial when we add in the battered spouse syndrome. It's longer than I was expecting and longer than a lot of cases like this go. I'd be willing to bet, just between us, okay? Just between us, family here. I think the defense is overestimating how long their case is going to go. I would bet with battered spouse, it's more likely that this is a 10-day trial, that we get this done in 2 weeks. That's what I would guess. But let's say 2 to 3 weeks just for our planning purposes so we can see about how long this case is going to go.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'll grant the continuance. I'm thinking continuing out to the July 11th pretrial, July 24th trial period.
How long is that trial period, Judge? I have a time certain death penalty case in Lake County starting the second week in August.
So what does time certain mean? Time certain or date certain means no more continuances. This case is going to trial. Now, he's about to say that I've had it before, and this case did get continued before, but it's not going to get continued this time. Here is what is brutal to me. How is he going to prepare for Sarah Boone's case when he has literally nothing right now, and it's the end of March, beginning of April, and in July, he has a death penalty multi-week trial? It just seems impossible to me. And they're about to pick another day. And when the date the judge picks is the Monday after, so this case would start, jury selection would start the Monday after he finishes his death penalty trial. That is almost impossible. I just couldn't imagine it. But that's where it is.
That's a 3-week trial period. So it'd be the week starting Monday, July 24th, Monday, July 31st, and then the last week of the trial period would be Monday, August 7th.
That's when I'm scheduled to start picking a jury in Lake County.
Well, let's do this. I want to set it for that date. That way you'll have a much better idea of what's actually happening on your death penalty case in Lake County. I understand that they're priority cases, but I also know that they're the cases where if a problem comes up, no matter what a judge has said before, they're likely to allow the case to move because they don't want to try it twice.
Just to advise the court, this case had to be continued at the last minute because
Exactly.
one of the attorney's wives basically had a stroke. And so it was a week before we were scheduled to start in that case.
And something could happen again, right? I think that's the point, is something could happen again that would potentially continue that case. And that's why setting it on this date doesn't necessarily mean that there's no way that that case could ever get continued. So it could. And that's what this judge is thinking.
But Judge Davis up there, now that has, I won't say resolved itself, but is in a better position. Judge Davis has advised all of us that we're going, quote, come hell or high water.
See, I try not to say things like that because I feel like I'm just tempting
Well,
fate.
that's just Lake County, Judge. What do you expect?
Having never worked there, it means nothing to me. So
I mean, this judge is kind of like, listen, you can say what you want. I try not to say stuff like that because as we've seen in every other case, stuff happens that you don't expect. And stuff could happen there as well.
I'll grant the change, July 11th pretrial, July 24th trial period. And let's go ahead and do this. I'm giving July 11th as the date. Let's go ahead and have the lawyers reach out to my judicial assistant. And just like we did this time, schedule a status separate, unique date for pretrial so that I have, y'all have my undivided attention when we talk about the case. I don't have 97 other lawyers tapping their fingers, waiting to get to me.
Sounds good, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Ms. Boone, we return to the Orange County Jail pending further order of the court. And Mr. Banquet, you can electronically file the motion to continue,
Yes, sir, we will.
and the court minutes will say it's granted. All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Have a good day.
She nods her head to him, which to me is like a thank you, right? She doesn't look terribly mad at him at that point. And then she's out. Now, usually it would be pretty easy for a lawyer to go meet with his client right after this hearing. So I don't know why he can't do that. Maybe he's got to go prep for his death penalty case. I don't know. Why not June? So Victoria, they need a 3-week docket because now they think this case is going to go 3 weeks, which makes it even harder to set. Excuse me. So that's one reason why it's kicked out even further. They also don't want to just come back here and continue it again. And so they want to give him time to talk to as many experts as he possibly can talk with. So let's, before we get to some questions, I am going to answer some more questions, but Tracy Collins sent me pages 3 and 4 of the Boone letter. So we are going to look at that after I answer a few more questions. And don't forget, if you want to stick around for the Paltrow juror reaction, we're going to redirect to that immediately. All right. Dana, Sarah was arrested in 2020. That's not a speedy trial. She's been in jail for 3 years. Well, based on probably the advice of counsel, she has waived her right to a speedy trial. Terry, we should be the jury and never the judge. Agreed. Crazy Cat Queen, what happens if defense has an expert, but the expert comes back and they find she doesn't fall under the battered spouse syndrome? How do they proceed? Does defense have to change tactics? Potentially, what normally will happen is defense experts will talk to defense counsel and say, I'm not sure I'm right for this case, or some kind of code that you don't want to call me. They don't necessarily provide a report always that says, I don't think she's a battered spouse. If they do provide a report, then yes, it is discoverable to the other side. And that goes both ways for the state and the defense. KCD, the potential DV experts probably don't want to end up like those from the Arias trial, lambasted, harassed, and threatened, or like the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. Nicole, why is it that many are dodging this case? I understand this happens more often than we understand, but can this continue? Speedy trial asked for her. She's waived her right to a speedy trial. And I don't know why this case is so much worse, but I think we're starting to see a lot more publicity early on in the process, and maybe that's going to make it worse. I'm interested to see how Koberger does if he needs any experts or people to testify for him. Zachary's mama, how are lawyers designated when the defendant can't pay? There's a list of court-appointed lawyers. You get appointed, you take the case. If you can. If you can't, you don't take it. But if you say yes, you're on, and you can't bail at the last minute like he tried to do. Is there a pool of lawyers? Yes. Certain lawyers will only do this? Yes. Every lawyer must donate time? No. You do not have to be on this list. Valerie, anyone keeping up with Letitia Stott's trial? It's finally on Law and Crime. So that, and then Valerie's other question, Peter, how will you be covering the Vallow trial since it's only audio? Just want to know if we will get a daily recap. I will answer these two questions after I read the rest of the Sarah Boone letter. But I am going to talk about these two trials specifically with you all at the end. Tracy, DM'd you on Instagram all 4 pages. The last page is indefensible in my opinion of her lawyer. Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you. You guys are literally the best with this stuff on Instagram and Twitter. So give me a follow on there if you haven't already at Tragos Law. Now, Tracy, we're connected through DMs, and I'm going to read this here after I answer just a couple more questions. Ayana, I don't like Sarah Boone, but I do agree that her representation should be actively working with and doing what they can for her. She deserves that. I agree with you. Azam, Peter, is there any limit on how long cases can get continuances? Is your voice getting better? Not really. It sounds like it still hurts. Cute tie. Thank you. Voice is okay, but it'll be getting better. So there's no real legitimate time period, but if it goes so long as to be in the interest of justice so incredibly unfair, the judge can throw out the case. The defense can sometimes, even after waiving a speedy trial, demand it under certain circumstances and get the case moving quickly. I will tell you, sadly, 3 years is nowhere near where the court system thinks it's unjustifiably long for a case to go to trial. There have been cases that have been around 20 years where the defendant's sitting in prison. Miter for reals. My try for reals. Wait, her attorney hasn't talked to her in 8 months until now. It seems like barely, if any, conversations have gone on between the two of them. She calls and calls and calls, and he does not communicate back with her and tells her she can't be at, if we're to believe what she says, that she can't be at pretrial hearings where she absolutely should and could be there. All right, let's get to these letters. I don't know how they're going to show up because I have them kind of screenshotted from my phone. So here's letter number 1. If you can't see it, that's okay. I am going to read it to you. How do I zoom in here? Oop, too much. All right. Just to start. Oh, no, this is 11/7. So this is the old one, Tracy. All right. This is the old letter. So that's the one we already did a breakdown on. If you want to see me discuss the first letter she wrote about her lawyer, actually, what's funny is if you Google Sarah Boone letter to her lawyer, our video of that pops up. So you can check out our background on that. It is horrible. It is horrible. And that's kind of one of the things that got us started in this case is how, even regardless of what we think about it or society thinks about people, it's unfair when they don't have proper representation. So if anybody else finds pages 3 and 4, send them to me. We can talk about them on another video. Tracy, A+ for effort. I do appreciate that. Okay. So let's talk about a couple other things and what's going on. We mentioned merch at the top. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. At 250K, we're going to have a new merch site up before then. And we're going to do the biggest giveaway of merch we've ever done. Yes, it will count towards sentencing potentially if she is convicted and sentenced. Okay, so John, go ahead and post the poll now because let's talk a little bit. We got about 10 minutes left before the next video starts. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up. There are 2 trials starting now. Letitia Staunch, not positive, haven't looked into it at all. That case is starting on long crime. I know nothing about it. I would be jumping into it blind. And then number 2, Lori Vallow Daybell, a case we have been covering from the jump. Chad Daybell and her case were split. She pushed a speedy trial, but not only are there no cameras in the courtroom, audio only, and I don't believe it's going to be real-time audio, but sensitive testimony and evidence will be done in camera, outside the presence of media, outside the presence of anybody that's at the trial. A few of you are reaching out to me on Instagram and Twitter, and you're letting me know that you're there. And so you'll be able to tell me what it's like when they go back there, when they come out. Is it just totally, are they ignoring it? So what I'm thinking is, whatever you all are most interested in, or if it is, and the poll is, what are you more interested in, Letitia Stauch or Lori Vallow? Vote. And if it's close, what I may do is does anybody know how long Letitia Stauch is supposed to go? I may do a video update every couple days where I don't hit every single thing that's happening on the case, but a lot of you with Zachariah Anderson, I think his name is, just wanted certain breakdowns. And we can probably do stuff like that on both of these cases where I don't watch every second of it, but I can answer some questions. We can do some Q&A. I can point out some of the important testimony, what happened, why things are happening the way that they are, and answers. Oh, Letitia said for 6 weeks. Yeah, definitely not daily updates for either. I know Lori Vallow is 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure. Somebody just said 3 weeks for Letitia. So what we'll do is we might do periodic updates if people are interested in both cases. So make sure you vote on the poll. John will send it to me when we have a few, a couple thousand votes on there. Stauch is an insanity plea, which again is going to show kind of multiple trials. First to prove that she did it, and then the medical side of it, the medical testimony. I appreciate that. Cosme. I'm interested in both. However, I'm happy with whatever works best for you. I appreciate it. What will probably happen is, can I change my vote? Simply Cheryl said. It's okay. It's okay. But yes, also like the live if you vote. Like this video, please. Always helps us out when you like it. It's free and appreciated. A lot of you are saying both, which I appreciate that. And every couple days, maybe I will update individual or each case. So we'll see based on how many votes we get, because that's the other thing. How many people are really interested? And maybe that's one of the ways we can do it is maybe like a little trial video of, all right, here's what's going on with Letitia Stouch, and here's what's going on with Valo. Valo 8 weeks, people said. Yeah, you guys are the best. Thank you, Missy DD Moo. You guys are the best. I know nobody's going to be mad if I don't cover it. So Chris said, apparently Court TV said the letter ends abruptly, or they just didn't get every page of it. All right, some periodic updates. Okay. Can't vote unless it says both. All right, so far, 2/3 of you are voting for Lori Vallow. It says / Chad Daybell, not listening to instructions. It's just Lori Vallow Daybell. Chad Daybell's trial is later in the year. Lori Vallow's case, 2/3 of you are still voting for that. Stina G said Pretty Lies and Alibis is live tweeting Lori Vallow. We will get some information there. Not even 1,000 votes yet. So we'll see. If there is a ton of interest in both cases, we will do it. If not, we will pick the one that most of you are interested in. Yeah, Valerie, I kind of feel the same way. Are you all going to be as interested if it's just audio and major chunks of the trial, like how the crimes were committed, what happened to the victims? We may not ever hear that. So that's going to be tough as well. That's definitely going to be tough as well. So that's where we're coming. That's kind of what's coming with us, right? We're going to look into Stotch. We're going to look into Vallow. Sarah Boone, which is going to be our primary focus, has been continued. So we're going to look into these two trials. Brian Koberger in the Idaho 4, that's at the forefront. When stuff comes out about that, we're going to jump right on it. That's one that is really interesting that we're going to stay on the entirety of the case, looking towards June for the pretrial hearing, which is going to be really interesting. The merch site is coming soon. We are very, very close, so keep track of that. Subscribe when we hit 250K. We are going to be doing a lot of giveaways there. And then check out the podcast. We've dropped kind of series when we do a trial for Murdoch and for Paltrow. We did some on Johnny Depp on the Elizabeth Holmes trial. And then Pete and I maybe will start an Opening the Door series where we talk about some evidence that may not be admissible evidence, that may be less credible, but people are really running with it and applying it to certain cases that have a lot of people's interest or are in our backyard, like this case that's tragic with the plastic surgeon who is accused of murdering an attorney who represented or was involved in representing an adverse party to this orthopedic surgeon. The podcast is on Apple, SoundCloud, everywhere you can get podcasts. Please reset the poll, Susanna said. All right, John, go ahead and reset it and put both on there, and we'll leave it up for about 5 minutes. Judge said 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Dana, what is a pretrial for? So a pretrial is for the judge to set out, here's the day we're going to start trial. Here's how long it is. Experts are going to be called. When are we going to be done? How long do you need for opening? How long do you need for jury selection? Are we all ready to go on that date? Any last minute things you need me to hear? Any motions in limine for evidence you don't think is admissible? Any motions to continue? Anything going on right now that I need to deal with? It's kind of that final hearing before we get to the trial. Myra, I usually just listen to you in the background at the gym, so no cameras doesn't bother me. And that's fine. And that's literally what it is all about. How you guys consume the content, how you like to consume it. Gemini, did they find the body yet? Answer to that from everything I've seen is no. And they may never find the body. There's some indications that maybe potentially he got rid of the body one way or the other. So we're doing one with both, or John forgot to put both. All right. John, if you're behind, reset it again, add both, literally have like 2 or 3 minutes before the next video starts. So we will leave it up for a couple minutes. All right. Assuming that's getting fixed now. You guys let me know when the poll is up with both included. Yeah, it's going to be. Promising unfortunately means a lot of intrigue, and it's tough. It's really tough. So I think some people are saying I don't do podcasts, or I don't have Apple for podcasts. SoundCloud, sorry. Deb, SoundCloud is I think where you can use your Spotify. It's on there too. However you listen to podcasts, if you look up Lawyer You Know podcast, it'll pop up there. And I'm pretty sure, because obviously our largest following is here on YouTube. That's how most of you are connected. We are probably going to film them in StreamYard some way for both of us to be on here, but it'll be kind of more informal. We'll just kind of talk through stuff. There won't be a video that plays. There won't be, a beginning, middle, and end maybe. It'll be kind of more of a free form conversation. So we'll have it kind of separate as a podcast. But I think we're going to post it on YouTube as well. The name of the podcast so far, so we were looking into That's Not Coming In or something like that, but Opening the Door. I really like that. People are not seeing a new poll. Verna says it's up. John, let me know if it's up with the both. All right, people are saying thanks, John. People just followed on Spotify. Awesome. Yes, please follow us on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. I don't think we have too many ratings on there. How about not going to happen? Future said, yeah, that's kind of where I was going along the lines of not going to happen, not coming in. Court TV doesn't even have the full letter. Lita, Peter, we are trying to sue the seller of our home in Florida. A lawyer we consulted with said it could take 2 years. Is that correct? Unfortunately, yes. Everything is delayed. Everything's taking forever. The court system is clogged. So 2 years is not uncommon for these kind of cases, unfortunately. Gemini, yeah, unfortunately, it's very, very close to where I'm at. Shelly likes opening the door. All right. When John sends me the update here, hopefully, of where we're at on this poll, we can call it a video and redirect us to the Gwyneth Paltrow juror video. Is the podcast on Apple called Lawyer You Know? Yes. Motions and lemonade. I like that. Good job, John. All right, here we go. So 25% Lori Vallow, 17% Letitia Stotch, and 60% both. So it seems like most people are interested in both. Yes, Crumbly Parents, it's on the radar. I obviously can't do a million of these cases. It's hard to even follow one. So we'll see how it goes while I'm trying to follow Stouch and Lori Vallow. And if it gets to be too much, I might just pick one because one is difficult enough. Thank you, Denna. The door is open, but that might be an EDB quote. I like opening the door. That's where I'm at right now. People like it. Normie, how was your weekend? It was awesome. We'll finish with this, okay? A little personal thing before we wrap it and redirect. Whatever you got to do to open up the redirect, hit it now because in about 1 minute, I'm going to redirect you to that other video. But this weekend with the boys, we played golf, we played pickleball, and we shot shotguns, skeet shooting at the clay targets. It was a lot of fun. I don't think I may have done skeet shooting one other time, but it was wild. And it was hilarious how so many people on Instagram and Twitter were like, oh, did it remind you of the Murdoch case? A little research for Murdoch and with shotguns and all this stuff. So it was wild. But that was really funny as people were kind of connecting into that. I didn't even think about it, but I do know a lot more about shotguns after shooting 100 rounds at these skeets, and my shoulder is still feeling it a little bit a couple days later. Yeah, Nothing Burger is definitely going to be on some merch, Kayla. I don't think we're going to call the podcast that. Maybe we'll have a future podcast called Nothing Burger. But this is definitely going to be on some merch. So get ready. I'm excited for the new merch store, and I hope you guys are too. So I appreciate everything that you guys do for this channel. And in the next video at the end, I give a very sincere thank you to pushing me into looking into more of these cases than I ever would have on my own, because I've learned so much and it's helped me in the practice of law so much. I've met a lot of cool people through YouTube, gotten a lot of clients from you all in the community from YouTube, people I've been able to connect with other lawyers, especially in injury and wrongful death cases. So I appreciate that sincerely, because you've pushed me to be a better lawyer, to learn more, and I can't thank you enough for that. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video. I'm going to hit the outro, and then we are going to be connected and redirected to the Gwyneth Paltrow juror reaction video. Thanks. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.